Guys, I want you to know that I always support dads on your behalf and on my own behalf because of the absence of it in my case. Just Iron John is about the minimization and diminishment of men. The book Iron John was written by a guy named Robert Bly, who's kind of a leftist. He's probably dead by now. But the parable, he uses that parable to explain how men have been minimized and how they try to get the virility and masculinity out of men in Western culture. And we need that. I mean, we needed that throughout history. But we have to keep it tamed, But women who are about power and control try to castrate men because they're threatened by what they don't have, I think. Regardless of all that, I want to tell you a story that just happened recently. A friend of mine's building a house at his ranch, kind of for a getaway for him and his wife. And the guy putting the roof on the house, it's a flat roof, but the guy putting the surface on the roof, they hired me to help him because his dad is his helper. But his dad's got a bad hip, walks with a cane, and is having bypass surgery this week. So his dad, his helper, is kind of playing out on him, and he needed some help. So I helped him put that roof on. I mean, the surface. He sprays this foam on it, just a thin layer that then foams up to, an inch or two. And then he sprays white silicone on top of that to protect it from UV rays, to keep the styrofoam from deteriorating. So he's a good guy. His name's Jason, and his dad's name is Lynn. And I had some nostalgia and a little bit of deja vu from time to time working with his dad, who's not that much older than I am. His dad's in his 70s, and I'm pretty close to 70. But his dad reminded me of Ed Shook, Oma's dad, and I worked a whole summer with Oma's dad on the ranch. Got to know him real well. And he was a lot like Granddad, who... So anyway, Jason has a son and a daughter who are very competitive, and he takes them both hunting and fishing a lot. They go hog hunting. Jason and his dad go hog hunting at least once a week. But his son and daughter like to coyote hunt, calling them up. But long story short, to try to keep from boring you too much, he took his son and daughter fishing, and she's a little older, but they're not quite rebellious teenagers yet, but she's getting close. She's probably 11 or something. So she's in a little skiff by herself, and the dad and the son are in another boat. And when the dad gets a fish on the line, he hands the pole to his son and lets him reel it in. And his daughter in the little skiff nearby hollers, "That does not count." Isn't that great? So, and his daughter has killed a coyote calling him up, but his son hasn't killed one yet, and he's mad about it. You with me? So, and you don't want to make fun of your children to diminish them, but you do want to be able to laugh at this stuff, but see it and try to help them develop, Okay, so I'm not making fun of it. I'm being entertained by it, but in a healthy way, having respect for it. So I told Jason, I said, "Do you remember that? Did you see Lord of the Rings: Return of the King?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you remember that scene where Legolas is climbing up that elephant and shooting all those bad guys, saying 23, 24, 25? And then he finally kills the elephant and comes sliding down the trunk like a slide and jumps off, and Gimlee says, 'That still only counts as one.'" He claimed he did remember it. I don't know. And I said, but when I got home, I sent him a text message that had this link, and I'll put the link below. And he lives in Lubbock, or that area. They live on a farm near Lubbock, or a little town up there where there's lots of coyotes and stuff. And I asked him, I said, "Did you tell your wife that I called you Norman Rockwell because you're so picky about doing a good job?" Because I've heard that Norman Rockwell's wife would say, "Come to supper, supper's getting cold." He said, "Just a minute, I got to touch up one more thing." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did she get a kick out?" He said, "Yeah." So we've kind of had joyful exchanges about, his talks with his wife. I said, "You're getting a sunburn in between your hairline and your shirt line because you're wearing a T-shirt that doesn't have a collar. You know, he's getting kind of a half-moon sunburn there on the neck. He said, you know, Carl, when I go home, my wife's always teasing me about the weird places I get sunburned, like on the crack of my ass. And I looked down, and he was right. His shirt was lifted up, and his pants, he doesn't have much of a butt, so his pants kind of droop. We've had a lot of fun. And Oma's dad, Ed Shook, was like this. He was playful. He was playful when he would work with you to try to keep the mood up. Opa was not, ever. And according to Ernest, Opa's dad was, quote, all business and did not have time for kids. So that sternness in Opa's dad, his drive helped him get ahead, but the sternness was unhelpful. And that was in the whole company. That was at Strayed Brothers, and I was trying to change that. The guy that I was really training, who kind of whistled while he worked and had a good attitude, he died in a single vehicle accident. And it just tore me up because I wanted him to kind of help me change the energy of our company to be more friendly rather than that hard-ass crap that it didn't work out that way. Like Calvin's poem. Calvin wrote me a poem a few years back. I forgot the exact title. It's not as we imagined. You know, a lot of things are not. But I'll put a link below to that. I'll put in the comments section below the text message I sent Jason with the link to Legolas and Gimlee. That comment. I know y'all remember that because I loved it at the time, and I told y'all how funny I thought that was, right? And now you're seeing it, and it never ends, and it needs to at some mature level. David and Claire have always been like this, okay? And I've always tried to get along with both of them, and needed to have confronted the hell out of David, and really needed to beat the crap out of him as teenagers when they would not have put me in jail for it. Now they put you in jail for it, but you with me? We never got all that worked out because we never got stuff out in the light and on the table.